Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment still, or back out on assignment. I don't know which one you want to call it, but it is what it is. But with that being said, I want to officially say welcome to episode 686 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. For institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, with my co-host Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and today we'll have AD Drew doing his thing. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer. That is Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. And while we like to say the business of sports in short, we just call it the HBCU Sports Pedagogy. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agents. THG Agents is a company that provides sporting, educational, consulting, and data analytics. With that said, let's bring in the co-hosts, the guests that are getting it done today with me, which is none other than Charles Bishop, as well as AD Drew. With that being said, Charles, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. I'm doing well. I mean, we are in the midst of camp. It's one of those deals where you're reaching out to SIDs. Y'all got any camp reports? Anything, just put something out there for the fans. They want to know what's going on with position battles. Who are the quarterbacks in camp? You got 60, 70 new players. Who's there? So everybody's trying to find out a little bit of information, but I guess we'll get a little bit of something because we'll start seeing some scrimmages this upcoming weekend.
That's pretty good. I'm going to go with D. I love Jackson State University. I thought it was fascinating that they made sure that wide receiver that happened to transfer to Prairie View with all the excitement that Prairie View was getting and all the mix coming out of Swag Media Day between Prairie View, that the first one they decided to highlight, I guess maybe besides quarterback with all his accolades, is a wide receiver that transferred, that in the transfer portal, and it's supposed to be lighting up, really showing out. I thought that was kind of interesting. I liked it. I thought it was petty, maybe just a little bit, but I like. Shout out.
Nothing like highlighting a 6'4" receiver. Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying. With that being said, let me go to you, Drew. What are your thoughts?
Jackson State, petty? Are you serious, Dr. Cavil? The Jackson State doing some petty stuff. Oh my God! What is this world coming to? It's almost like Jackson State being a blue blood. Oh. My bad. I wasn't supposed to preview that right now.
That's on the last segment. They're gonna let you know how they feel about that. And I won't say this. Whether Jackson State is recognized as a blue blood, I don't like to use that term because that's what the other folks use. I like for us to use our own framework. Everybody knows that Jackson State holds its own position. And it might not be measured by whatever qualitative numbers, but in terms of what they bring to the table, there's no doubt they had a space and they'll be all right. And if they keep doing what they've done lately, people forget you can, or at least the one I did, you can transcend, you can move. They're not there. They certainly continue to do what they're doing. They'll be there for long.
Mhm.
Yeah, true.
We're gonna have a discussion about that. It'll be fun.
While some of y'all are fighting heat in certain parts of the country, we've been fighting rain in Georgia for like the last 5 days, man. I mean, and I'm not talking about light showers and everything. I'm talking about thunderstorms over the last 5 days. So I think today may be the first day it has not thunder. You know, that thunder that wake you up in the middle of the night, or that thunder that make you want to go duck up under the bed in the middle of the day because it be so loud. Yeah, that's the type of thunder that we've been having here in Georgia the last week or so.
Big time. Yeah, they always say nothing's, all the weather is not related to the changing ecosystem, but they sure got a lot of people fooled because I see different.
Doc, it literally went from approaching 100 a couple of days ago. It was 72 degrees yesterday in Atlanta for the high.
Oh, wow.
No doubt. I like it. Good stuff. Well, let me go back to you, Charles. What else is on your mind?
Oh, let's start off with a little bit of news in terms of taking a look at some HBCU news. We talked a little bit about Jackson State. Jackson State made the FCS preseason top 25, and this comes to us from HBCUsports.com. That's the start of the 2025 college football season. It's less than 3 weeks away. Only one HBCU checks in with the national poll. To the surprise of no one, it's the HBCU national champions. Jackson State is ranked 17th by stats performed in the FCS preseason top 25 poll. So Jackson State getting some preseason love, if you will, in terms of being nationally ranked.
Good stuff. And they're the only HBCU in the top 25. There were some that received votes, so we'll give them a love. South Carolina State was the top receiver of votes outside of that top 25 in terms of 35 votes. Then Big South, OVC co-champion of last year, Tennessee State, is in the mix in those receiving votes with 21. And MEAC, runner-up, if you would, North Carolina Central, is also in the mix with 18. Early season, fascinating, which means you're going to get some top 25 matchups. It should be interesting to see Jackson State, to see if they can continue to climb up that top 25 and which other teams potentially can join them. That being said, I'm going to go back to you, Drew. What other direction you want to go in terms of your HBCU news today?
You know, we give a lot of flack to our institutions, our independent institutions, especially those who have recently left the HBCU conferences. But GHO will always be GHO. And A&T fans, once again, wasted no time locking up their seats for one of the biggest events in HBCU football. We're not going to debate on whether it is the greatest homecoming on earth or not. You know, your mama names you GHO, I'm going to call you GHO. So that's what y'all want to call yourself. I'm going to call you GHO. Anyway, if you were planning on getting tickets for GHO, find something else to do because they gone.
Too late.
Dog on ready. By midday Monday, tickets went on sale Monday morning. Lunchtime, they was gone.
Good. I like that.
I like it.
They're facing South Carolina State, traditional rival there for North Carolina.
I like that too.
Game is set for October 11th, 1 o'clock, Truist Stadium, 2,100 fans. That's what the seating capacity is. We know Fire Marshal takes vacations on homecoming at every HBCU campus because we know they squeeze in more than they supposed to. But congratulations to A&T.
You're not supposed to tell anybody that, Drew.
Oh, my bad. Despite the flack that they got for jacking up the prices on their HBCU.
Rightfully so. They deserve that flack.
But they did that. But can I tell a secret to everybody, Dr. Cavil?
Yes, you can.
And I'm telling y'all an administrative secret. I probably shouldn't tell y'all. But in case y'all don't know, everybody jack up their ticket prices for homecoming. Whether it's the season ticket package or the individual. If it's one game the ticket price is going up on, It's gonna be whatever your homecoming is. And if your team happens to be somebody's homecoming opponent, prepare to pay $1 or $2 more, not only for the game, but for the parking also, everybody, and prepare to walk wherever you park at.
Good point. As a season ticket holder, you forget those things. Great point. As well as being blessed to be in the media framework, obviously you don't have to worry about that. But shout out A&T Roy, no doubt. Shout out to you. Congratulations.
Well, that's going to be an interesting day. October 11th, we got North Carolina A&T's homecoming against South Carolina State. Jackson State's homecoming against Alabama State same day.
Yes. Yeah, I will be watching SWAC TV for one of those matchups for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the CAA Colonial. I don't have that one, so I'll keep up on the ticker though. I'll make sure I get an update from that perspective. But it should be good. Let me go back to you, Charles, as we open this thing up. What do you want to drop in terms of your segment?
Well, you mentioned SWAC TV. SWAC TV is live, and what we want to take a look at with SWAC TV, they made headlines last month at Football Media Day when it was announced that SWAC TV is streaming service and app dedicated solely to SWAC athletics as of Friday. Last Friday, August 1st, SWAC TV is live now. And here's what you can find on the app this upcoming football season. SWAC TV can be downloaded from the Google Play and Apple stores, as well as from the smart TV platforms, Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, and Android TV. So once you've downloaded and opened SWAC TV, a list of menu options appears. Search, featured, live and upcoming, the SWAC Championship Series, SWAC Sports, and About. So when you click on the SWAC Championship Series item, you can watch every conference-sponsored tournament and championship from the 24-25 season. So it's huge in terms of SWAC TV going live last Friday, August 1st. I had a lot of people, text me and showed me. They pulled it up on their app and pulled up a couple games that I had done last season. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends. They already talking about that they're going to be they're outside of a traditional market with an HBCU football program. So other than when they hit the road, they said they're going to be all up on some SWAC TV. They said they was on the porch this past Saturday relaxing, and they're like, "Oh, I like this. They can get into that." So they got one follower right there. They own it, and obviously they got a lot more. But yeah, I'll have mine. I've downloaded mine on my phone, so I'm moving around on my iPad. So I'll be set up. I'm gonna be able to watch all my content. So when we make sure we do our thing, that you're getting it from somebody that is actually having a chance to watch all these different games. See?
Yeah, got it pulled up.
With Charles, he will make sure you see that. This came across from Matt Brown. This is interesting to me. This is from a tweet. He talks about his statement is not sure if this is out there yet, but I'm hearing a temporary moratorium on Division II schools reclassifying to Division I is likely to pass. Grandfather would be possible for schools with documented conference infights. So I don't think this is about stopping anybody exactly. And then he adds in a follow-up tweet, if you would, with a bit more, the NCAA today reaffirmed its moratorium on not allowing any new schools into Division I until at least February 2027 per sources. Fascinating to me is that key qualification, if that is correct, that if you have an invite, then you'd be grandfathered into clause. So MEAC still has a chance, because I was going to say that this shuts down any thoughts of the MEAC expansion of 2027 based on this. But there is a small little clause that still allows those that want to look at conference churning. It's still a little opportunity that's left there that if MEAC officially invites one of these Division II programs, then it should still get the green light. We shall see. I did want to put that out a little bit. Let's take our first break, come back on the other side. Let's get into these poll rankings. We are releasing the next 7, which happens to be 14 through 8. Next week, we'll release the final 7. But this week, we do 14 through 8. Should be some good dialogue here, particular to see if there's any of these teams that you think should be in the top 7 to start things off. And certainly if you think by the end of the year, and one of these teams might find a way there. And if any of these things will have, any of these teams, I should say, will bottom out and find a way back in that bottom 21. So we'll be right back after this first break.
Get ready for the inaugural Unity Classic, Saturday, September 13th at Nathaniel Glover Community Field and Stadium. It's a clash of the Virginia Union Panthers of the CIAA and the Edward Waters Tigers of the SIAC. Plus, an HBCU band battle between the Edward Waters Triple Threat Marching Band and the Virginia Union Ambassadors of Sound. The inaugural Unity Classic goes down in due fall.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
History? Yeah, we built that. Pride? We fuel that. And on August 30th, we run that. Two powerhouse HBCUs, Howard Bison, FAMU Rattlers, one legendary showdown under the Miami lights at Hard Rock Stadium. The energy unmatched. The culture undeniable. The vibes straight HBCU. 2025 Invesco QQQ Orange Blossom Classic. Get your tickets and book your hotel now at orangeblossomclassic.com. Saturday, August 30th at 4 p.m. in Miami Gardens.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Football fans, HBCU football is back in the ATL with the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Kickoff. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC, Southern Eagles, Jaguars, the Marching Sound Machine, the Human Jukebox. The kickoff trophy is up for grabs, and bragging rights are on the line. The rivalry is real. Bring the family and join us pre-game for the fun-filled Coca-Cola fan experience, including band jamborees, food, activations, and fellowship. For tickets and information, visit MEACSWACChallenge.com.
Compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I know I hadn't really followed as much and did the interchange with our viewers in the lab, particularly on Facebook. So I'm entertained with going over and checking out some things and responding to some of our viewers over there, as well as those on the traditional YouTube side getting it done, and all those that follow us in terms of all the other social media programs out there. Appreciate you for joining us across the landscape. With that being said, let's get in this top 14, these next 7. Starting with number 14. And these are teams where you start seeing teams that had 500 records or just under that, or maybe just below. A lot of these teams are in that framework. So it's always interesting to see, are these folks, one, going to stay in this framework? Are they going to bottom out? Or are they going to add 2 or 3 wins? We're going to start that with a team that I think has that ability to bottom up, not necessarily bottom down in terms of what some people would say bulls up in terms of what that looks like. Texas Southern Tigers, 5-6 last year, 4-4 first year coach. In so many different ways, Coach Dishman getting it done. He has a quarterback that got hurt in that Labor Day Classic where he got the big win on the road. He has him back. He was at media day. Very confident young man, a team that you can see why players would rally around him. It'll be interesting, and things get off with a conference matchup. This time, it's in Houston. Labor Day Classic does this thing again. They have a lot of ancillary events around that. So for those that hadn't got that information yet, if you're getting in town, make sure you pay attention to everything for step shows, battle of the bands, as well as golf tournament. If you're in that stuff, register and make yourself available to do that. They even have a sneakers ball, if you would. So fascinating to see what that looks like, and wanted to make sure we got that information out to people. But they're at number 14 to start things out. They stay out of that bottom, but they're right there in the mix in this next step. Next team, Howard Bison. A year removed from playing in the Celebration Bowl, if you would, the year before last. Had a down season last year. They're looking to rebound, but do they have the talent to do that? Obviously, we'll see another quarterback behind center than what they've played with the last couple of years. We'll see what that means. They were 4-8, but really hit the slide, if you will, when it got in conference play. I'm not sure anybody saw this coming where they went just 1-4. 116 points as they are in at number 13. Let's get into number 12. Their rival, which owns the HU right now, is none other than Hampton. The Hampton Pirates finished the season at 5-7. When you think about it in a lot of ways, had a couple of plays go this or that way, they could have had a winning season. Certainly been at 500. They believe they have a lot of pieces coming back. They were able to get some key non-conference wins, including some HBCU wins. But when they got into the CIA, they did get 2 wins to their credit, but far away from being 500 as they were just 2-6, 117. So it'll be fascinating to see, can they transition? Can they take that next step? Can they be the HBCU that follows in the footsteps of what Tennessee State was able to do in the Big South OVC last year? If not, obviously, a championship, co-championship like they did, at least put themselves in a position to be in the argument. If they do that, I think a lot of people will be interested in talking about the Pirates even a little more this season. And number 11, Alcorn State Braves sit at 6-6, 5-3. And this is a team that people have been wondering about in regards to many folks believe that they should be in the upper echelon playing for championships. They hadn't had this level of success since they transitioned over to the East Division. Part of that was the transition of their legendary head coach, at least in terms of the family name McNair. When it looked like he was going to get the Texas Southern job, speaking of Texas Southern at the bottom of this list, it didn't happen. Now he's happy doing his thing over there with Southern, and Southern plays for a championship, oddly enough. But with that being said, the Braves are at 6-6, 5-3. Closed practices down there. A lot of folks are chirping, trying to figure out what's going on there. Certainly a lot of expectation. So I'm fascinated to see what that means and what these gentlemen think in terms of, did I get it right? Or will what a lot of the Braves want to see, certainly some of them think, that they will end up in the top 7 because they will be winning, if not fighting, division. Preseason, they were ranked 2 in the Western Division, and folks are still trying to figure out when the West will be hosting a championship game, and more or less even winning a championship game is a whole different discussion. Besides that, no, we got 2 of those teams in the West out of the SWAC on here. MEAC team and independent thus far. Let me go to you, Charles, first on the mic today. What do you think about these first 4 teams in this next 7, 14 to 11?
These are my quintessential Jekyll and Hyde teams, and I think you said something when you were talking about them. I mean, they always are like a player 2 away from either having a very good season or a so-so season, and that's what jumps out when you take a look at them. Minus Howard, who kind of fell back to the pack last year, but Texas Southern, you talk about a team, you never know who they are with KJ Cooper at quarterback. Last year they played for the most part all season with their second and third string quarterback, and their defense kept them in games quite a bit. A heartbreaking loss to Southern, inexplicable loss to Southern. Looked like they had that game won, and they gave it up in the final 2 minutes of that ball game. But A team that, a play here, a play there, they can be right in the mix of things. When we take a look at Hampton, that's going to be a very interesting matchup to me. When you talk about they won a couple games in the CAA last season, but they take on Jackson State game 1. And what is this Hampton team going to kind of going to look like this upcoming season? I think we get a lot of answers on August 30th when they take on Jackson State. Alcorn, do they finally have some stability at quarterback? I think that's the thing that I'm really paying attention to with this football team. I expect the defense to be back in the upper echelon of the SWAC, but can they get the wins they really need to get? They lost to Southern last year at homecoming. That was a very tough loss. And then intense rivalry with Jackson State, big loss on that. So how do they rebuild the pieces in the second year of their coaching tree there, if you will? So it's going to be very interesting to see if these teams can get over the hump and get that 1 or 2 plays that they didn't get last season.
Good stuff. I'm going to you, AD Drew. As you look at this, are you in agreement with Ram Nation? That's WSSU Ram Nation.
Oh,
Larry Scott is on the hot seat.
I just saw that comment. Let Larry Scott lose to Delaware State. I guarantee you he'll be on the hot seat.
Damn.
I mean, his boy wants the job, so
Yeah.
But
Howard flipping coaches out like that?
It's 5 years.
Okay.
It'll be 5 years. So
yeah, he made a Celebration Bowl appearance in 5 years.
Yeah,
Won the conference.
But we've seen hell, Fred McNair, how many Celebration Bowls did he go to? 2, 3 in a row after he took over? And they got rid of him.
He wasn't really pushed out. He stepped out, and then they were like, "Stay."
He wasn't pushed out. If you don't pay the man or get a man a decent contract offer, you pushing him out.
That's true.
Yeah, Tiffo. That's a weird culture down there. So
that's true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But part of it is maybe they just didn't have the money to give him more than.
You got to give me something.
Because my understanding wasn't necessarily about the contract in terms of what he wanted. It was more about what they were able to do for the program. And I'm not sure if they actually had the wherewithal to do it. And I'm not saying this in terms of lack of support. I'm saying this more from the perspective that the number of students they have doesn't allow them to necessarily put as much financial backing into athletics, particularly football, compared to who they're playing against.
Yeah. Well, and this is going to be my last comment on this.
That's fair.
If you want to keep a coach, you don't let a coach go into the last year of their contract. I'm sorry.
That's true.
Yeah, at some point, I want to feel the love. I mean,
yeah, you don't let the coach go into the last year.
I'll let you drop the mic on that one. You made it sound a big thing.
Dang, what was your boy who left Prairie View, coach? I mean, Cavil. I can't think with the Southern. Went back to Southern. Dooley.
Oh, Dooley.
Coach Dooley.
See Eric Dooley.
That's true.
Anyway, Charles, you mentioned something about quarterbacks, and you mentioned about Texas Southern not having a healthy quarterback. Hell, you could have used that statement for about 90% of the SWAC last year.
It was a unicorn year
because it was a unicorn season. So not only with these two teams that we have on the screen, the SWAC, but overall, have these teams improved their offensive line? Because one of the reasons that these quarterbacks are potentially getting hurt is the lack of the offensive line.
That's true.
So you bring up something very interesting, because I've talked to some coaches, and one of the things, especially in the early part of the season, is the continuity of some new faces along the offensive line. A lot of times it just doesn't get there until you probably get to early October, especially if you have some new faces. So one of the big things, and I'm kind of paying attention to, is, those who have brought back pieces along the offensive line where you have a little bit of continuity, and you're trying to mesh some of the new faces along the offensive line, and it just doesn't come right away. So that's one of the things that, was last year a unicorn year, or does it become a trend where it's like you steady trying to get this offensive line up and going, and they don't really mesh and gel until October.
To that point, let me ask you this, Charles, before we take this next break. Any of these 4 teams you are hearing feel comfortable about at least coming back where they are with the line play?
Texas Southern has some pieces coming back along the offensive line, but I would have to check in, on Alcorn to be sure with them. Mm-hmm.
Drew, give your final point, and we'll take our next break.
You want to talk about that offensive line meshing?
Yep.
Alcorn has the best opportunity to figure it out. Okay. Although they play Alabama A&M in a non-conference conference game, you know how that goes, everybody. But they really don't play their first conference game till week 4 against UAPB in the Southern Heritage Classic versus the Texas Southern, who better have it right coming out the gate because that first game counts. And one thing you don't want to do, especially in the West, when you're playing a conference opponent the first game, is be 1 in the hole to start the season. One last thing I found interesting in looking at these schedules of these 4 teams on the screen, Charles and Doc, Hampton, of these 4 teams, is the only one who does not play a P4 money game on their schedule.
Good one. Good point.
Interesting.
That being said, let's take our next break. Before we do that, guess what I got in the mail? So you really gonna make me go downstairs to get mine too, Doc?
I'm sure mine out the mailbox. I got to go to the mailbox. Ain't been there in 3 days.
Can you do it during the next break, though? Is the question.
Exactly.
It would have been cool for all 3 of us to show
in his book, HBCU Sports 101, and it seems like the whole team here got their book and made sure we did what we needed to do to support Ken Rashad. For those that haven't, go ahead, go get your book. And you might have to hit him up directly now if you still want the signature. I saw him sweating on a couple of shows where he was putting in work doing the signatures. I like the way he put that out there. Shout out to Ken Rashad for the HBCU Sports 101, a guide to understanding college athletics. I need to go to the P.O. box. That's right. Some people, go check your mail. Your book's there.
Wait a minute. Somebody, Van Talk said he got his.
Good. Let me know. I want to hear. Put it out there if you got your book. With that being said, we'll be right back after this next break.
Make sure y'all actually open up and read it once y'all get it, y'all. I'm just saying.
Hey, Band Talk, send me in your top 5 bands. I'm curious. We got to get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Football fans, HBCU football is back in the ATL with the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Kickoff. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC, Southern, Eagles, Jaguars, the Marching Sound Machine, the Human Jukebox. The kickoff trophy is up for grabs, and bragging rights are on the line. The rivalry is real. Bring the family and join us pre-game for the fun-filled Coca-Cola fan experience, including band jamborees, food, activations, and fellowship. For tickets and information, visit MEACSWACChallenge.com.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Cover's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Cover's Voice, Cover's Voice, CoversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Get ready for the inaugural Unity Classic, Saturday, September 13th at Nathaniel Glover Community Field and Stadium. It's a clash of the Virginia Union Panthers of the CIAA and the Edward Waters Tigers of the SIAC. Plus, an HBCU band battle between the Edward Waters Triple Threat Marching Band and the Virginia Union Ambassadors of Sound. The inaugural Unity Classic goes down in Duval.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
History? Yeah, we built that. Pride? We fuel that. And on August 30th, we run that. 2 powerhouse HBCUs, Howard Bison, FAMU Rattlers, one legendary showdown under the Miami lights at Hard Rock Stadium. The energy unmatched. The culture undeniable. The vibes straight HBCU. 2025 Invesco QQQ Orange Blossom Classic. Get your tickets and book your hotel now at orangeblossomclassic.com. Saturday, August 30th at 4 p.m. in Miami Gardens.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop and AD Drew. I do want to single Edwin Moore out. He said every coach in the SWAC has been singing from the mountaintop that they are bigger in the trenches. A lot of teams certainly felt they had to get bigger in the trenches, and they did. It'd be fascinating to see how that translates for these teams. Good point made there. Be interesting to see what that looks like. Let's go to these next 3. Who are these teams that are just outside of the top 7? Essentially would be a top 10 if we did it in that framework. That's what we're looking at now. So let's go to number 10. This is another first-year coach coming over from Miles College. We have Alabama A&M Bulldogs that ended the season 6-4-4, 2024 under Coach Maynard. Be interesting to see if Maynard can get back in the game, and can he do it in the SIEC? He's been in the other 3 conferences, CIAA, SWAC, and MEAC. Needs to find a way to get it done. That's if he wants to continue coaching. Maybe I can lure him back in here to make the trifecta. That's 3. Quadfecta, I guess you would say it, all 4. But get back to the Bulldogs. They're led by their new man, Alabama A&M Bulldogs, 6-4-4. It'll be interesting to see what took place. They were exciting coming in as they had a big-time quarterback come over from Pine Bluff that a lot of people were thinking really strong about, but we found out academically that he is not eligible to participate with the Bulldogs this season, so they let him go. We'll see what that exactly means, and it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. Let's go into number 9. Sticking in the state of Alabama, we're going to go with Alabama State Hornets. 7-5 this last year, 5-3. While they were in the top 7 last year, they moved down in terms of what they're doing this year. Fascinating thing is that if you really think about it, really formidable record, having to play a lot of the season with the 5th string quarterback, actually a wide receiver that moved to quarterback. You got to give them credit to there. But overall, there was some misses there in terms of the expectation coming to season. So fascinating to see what that looks like this year. 5-3, so they were at the top of the conference, but not enough when you play in the East where Jackson State was undefeated. So they probably had one of the best games against Jackson State, but it was not enough to get it done for that very reason. They didn't have the offense. Can they get the offense this year? You would think defensively they should be solid, but they did lose a defensive coordinator. So I'm fascinated to see y'all thoughts on Alabama State Hornets, particularly where they ranked at number 9. Closing out this last team in the middle 7, that's 14 through 8. So we're at number 8, Tennessee State Tigers. They sit at 9-4, 6-2, 146 points. Fascinating what you all have to say, what the lab listening has to say. I think there's a lot of thoughts in regards to the Tennessee State Tigers from the standpoint that a lot of people are either thinking very high with Tennessee State because of what they did last year, and a lot of people are concerned because they lost so much, including a coach. People are fascinating when you look at the coaches that they brought into the program, but is it enough in terms of what they have installed with the players there to really push for another great season? I'm fascinating to see. I'm going to start with Drew this time. What do you think with these next three when you talk about this 7 teams in this middle of the trifecta of the 7 teams here?
I'll start top down. Tennessee State, new head coach. Eddie George is now gone. Reggie Barlow, speaking of Alabama State, comes in to take over the Tigers. Now, we know one thing Tennessee State has won. They definitely won the assistant coaches battle out of all these teams with the pedigree of their assistant coaches. But question is, do they have the talent remaining to coach? In that you really don't know how to judge the Big South OVC conference when you look at the competition. And this is not a knock on Tennessee State, but because of the fluidity of that conference, teams moving in, teams moving out, you really don't know where they are going to fall. I know one thing: I don't expect them to fall where the preseason predictions had. I expect them to finish much higher than that. Can they get over the mountaintop this year? Not quite sure. Alabama State played about 85 quarterbacks, so we're going to use that number since they right off of I-85 there in Montgomery, Alabama, because that's about how many quarterbacks they played. No, you're going to get solid defense with Alabama State. Alabama State is always over the Mendoza line, but hell, I'm trying to think of a team that's always in the playoffs but can't win the whole doggone thing. That's kind of Alabama State's like the San Diego Chargers / Los Angeles Chargers. They always in the playoffs, but they never get to the Super Bowl. That's Alabama State. I'll always say, can they stay healthy and finally get something on the offensive side of the ball? And Alabama State is famous for one game a year where their special teams cost them. Can they make those corrections this year? I'm going to be interested with
Charles, what you say?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say I'm going to be interested when we get to the D2 to see where you leave Miles at, because all the players that had eligibility left in Miles was anybody except for like one on offense and one on defense, or up in Huntsville right now. Can those players step up and play at this FCS level? That's going to be the thing about Alabama A&M.
That's so good points. Charles, I'm sorry about jumping in there on you, Drew, but go ahead, Charles.
No, I mean, I think when you take a look at Alabama A&M and Alabama State, very good teams. Not great, very good. That's the issue. Can they get over the hump? And they got two monsters sitting over there, sitting in front of them.
Don't kill them folks with the love post. Very good teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just in there, and you're sitting there. And
these are really good teams.
A&M, I mean, Demetrius Biyombe, and Xavier Booker. I mean, they have defensively. I know they're going to be right there. Offensively, we'll see. What Cornelius Brown does. In his second year starting. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, it is his second year starting. But I mean, they have to get over the hump of Florida A&M and Jackson State. Alabama A&M, they get Jackson State down there in Mobile, neutral site game. So, can Huntsville invade Mobile and overtake the Jackson State faithful who love making that trip down there? They get Florida A&M. They get Florida A&M at home November 15th. That's going to be, kind of interesting to watch. But you can't, be so up for that one. Then there's one road game left. They come out to Texas Southern. That could be kind of interesting toward the end of the season. So, and then you take a look with Alabama State. We know they're going to have a championship caliber defense year in, year out. But offensively, we've talked about it now for the past 2-3 seasons. Like, what's going to happen? So, and last year, unfortunately, they had a lot of injuries at quarterback. But can they get over the hump, and the big hump that is Florida A&M and Jackson State? And then, they got to battle it out with each other. Interesting thing with Tennessee State, they got 8 home games this season. Can the Tennessee State faithful turn out for this football team? A lot of turnover. I know. But it's at least
Besides homecoming, Charles, they don't even turn out for homecoming.
I know it's hard to get up for Lindenwood, but it's
unless they do the hell. Hey, Charles, you say Alabama A&M versus Jackson State is a neutral site game. Last time I checked, Jackson, Mississippi was closer to Mobile, Alabama than Huntsville, Alabama is to Mobile, Alabama.
Hey,
so you can call it neutral all you want to, but I'm almost ashamed to say it. You probably gonna have more blue and white in the stands than you are gonna have maroon and white in the stands in that game.
Jackson State fans love making that trip to Mobile. They've always enjoyed making that trip to Mobile. I don't know what's going on down there in Mobile, but they make a beeline. They make a beeline down there for Mobile. So I don't know what's going on. I'll find out one of these days. I guess I kind of did once. But.
Yeah, it'd be different, but luckily, at least you had a casino. Yeah. But you're right, it's fascinating.
Maybe
it's doable.
Maybe it's the waterfront with the seafood. But with that being said, before we take this next break, let me shout out Sneaker Shop Talk. He said number 8 for Tennessee State. He had the 3 mad faces. I'm just interested. Is he mad because they're too high, or he mad because he thinks they're too low? Zach McKinnell says, I might put it back, Zach. I might be biased, but it can be fun down here in the 251. Yeah, Zach, you just a little bit biased, but that's fine. You're supposed to be biased. You just need to remind folks where they can go have the fun. That's what you do.
There's something going on down there in Mobile. I gotta check that out.
Good stuff. But back on Sneaker Shop Talk, he also says that Alabama State are like the Steelers of the SWAC. Not sure how it happens, but you look up and somehow they have a solid record. I like that. It's true. And people are tired and mad because it happens. Also, shout out to Edwin Moore. He did your top 5 bands. At number 5, he has the Ocean of Soul. Look out for Alcorn and Alabama A&M. He said just outside of the top 5. At number 4, he has the Blue and Gold Machine. At number 3, he has the Spartan Legion coming out of the MEAC. At number 2, he has the Sonic Boom of the South. And number 1, he has the Human Jukebox. I knew
Go ahead.
Laugh at that, so I had to get up there. He also did his rankings based on what we showed him for the next 7. He has at number 14 Alcorn State. At number 13 Bama State. At number 12 he has Alabama A&M. At number 11 he has Howard. At number 10 he has Texas Southern. He has Texas Southern further up the list. At number 9 he has Hampton. He does agree with Tennessee State at number 8. So there, Sneaker Shop talk to Edwin Moore. He agrees with that number 8. He has something in his formula, right? So with that being said, we're going to take our next break. We'll come back in this last break as we get prepared. And we'll talk a little bit about this history. What are some of the top programs over a period of time of history is the way I want to look at it in terms of, and then based on that, how do they rank? Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3? We're going to look at it in terms of major division programs and mid-major division programs. We'll look at it over the history of HBCU football since they started doing championships, 1920, obviously, mythical. And we'll break it all the way up to this last category where we have the Celebration Bowl, at least for the major division, where for most folks, the championship is played on the field, certainly bowl game that is big. We have 2 other iterations we'll do. We have a demarcation where we essentially had programs demarcated in the NCAA, whether it's Division I, FCS that is, or Division II. And then we have a period where I got into the business taking votes and markers and doing a formula where I started ranking teams in 2002. Man, going back a little bit, we're almost at 25 years. That's pretty crazy. So giving myself a little kudos for putting that much work in. But we'll be right back after the last break. We'll get into that. I'll break it down, and then we'll get Charles and Drew to give the thoughts on that. As we do that, not in this segment, but if you hadn't seen it already, after that segment, take some time to go back and look at Sports Wrap with Brian and AD, where they take a deeper dive into that. They do share this framework as well and kind of tie it in a nice bow I appreciate them sharing me some love. But they have a formula that's pretty detailed in terms of the formula with 5 levels of criteria that they use to break it down. A lot of weight. Some people agreed with that criteria. Some people didn't. But the fact that I like from a professor's perspective that they use data to tell a story. With that being said, we'll be right back after this last break. Charles wasn't happy.
I got a bone to pick with Drew, but it's not. It has nothing to do with the rankings. It's just everybody started contacting me behind that poll. So
how you think we feel? Hey, going to break.
I like that, Charles. He said, I like your poll, whether I agree with it or not. I had the brother. I like what you poll, but the fact that you got everybody talking to me, calling me.
I'm trying to play golf and everybody texting me. Stop.
Hey, Doc, how many people hit you up?
Oh, I get it all the time. So you did your job. We'll be right back after this last break.
History? Yeah, we built that. Pride? We fuel that. And on August 30th, we run that. 2 powerhouse HBCUs, Howard Bison, FAMU Rattlers, one legendary showdown under the Miami lights at Hard Rock Stadium. The energy unmatched. The culture undeniable. The vibes straight HBCU. 2025 Invesco QQQ Orange Blossom Classic. Get your tickets and book your hotel now at orangeblossomclassic.com. Saturday, August 30th at 4 p.m. in Miami Gardens.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Football fans, HBCU football is back in the ATL with the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Kickoff. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC, Southern Eagles, Jaguars, the Marching Sound Machine, the Human Jukebox. The kickoff trophy is up for grabs, and bragging rights are on the line. The rivalry is real. Bring the family and join us pre-game for the fun-filled Coca-Cola fan experience, including band jamborees, food, activations, and fellowship. For tickets and information, visit MEACSWACTalents.com.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
Get ready for the inaugural Unity Classic, Saturday, September 13th at Nathaniel Glover Community Field and Stadium. It's a clash of the Virginia Union Panthers of the CIAA and the Edward Waters Tigers of the SIAC. Plus, an HBCU band battle between the Edward Waters Triple Threat Marching Band and the Virginia Union Ambassadors of Sound. The inaugural Unity Classic goes down in Duval.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop and AD Drew. As we get into here, let me give a little framework of what this looks like as we get into it. I use the minimum championship criteria and branding records over 4 different periods of time. I use the major division, mid-major division. As you follow us, you know major division is for FCS Division I, mid-major division for Division II and NEIA, delineation for inclusionary purposes, as well as I also use the Sport Fans Marketing Escalator Framework. For those that look at marketing, particularly for sports, there's a vehicle out there called the escalator concept. And the way you look at this is where I get into some of this branding recognition. Think about a escalator, stair step if you would, and you have fans that are off the escalator before they get on it. which are fans that you're trying to get in. Those are folks, if you think about, that may not go to games and things of that nature. They're media viewers for the MEAC SWAC Challenge for those that are not going to go to Atlanta and watch the game, but are going to follow it. That's where you would be on in terms of your fandom of the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge kickoff. But those folks that are going to go to the game, get good seats, if you would, they would be what you call your light users that climb up the escalators. Those that get in there, paint their faces, certainly have their colors of their school clothes on, they would be in that medium range. Those that paint their face, get into it, those kind, they're the highest level. That's where you want fans to be, that fan index. They're doing all kinds of things. They're getting the highest tickets that you can sell it, whatever. They're going to be there regardless. They're all into it. So those are fans, when you think about it, that are super attracted to the teams. And those teams that have that oftentimes put themselves in teams where they have teams that have championships. When I break it down into a further component of that is ultimately much of this discussion is based on the framework of heavy tier, where you look at 13 to 16 national championships. Medium tier is 9 to 12 championships. And we have what you call your light tier is 8 to 5 championships, and low tier would be 1 to 4 championships to capture that. I do want to say this. Ultimately, I know a lot of your discussion is based on one's historic familiarity with HBCU history, which area you were born in and became attached, where's your affinity with your HBCU sports culture is based oftentimes when you started following what teams were doing well at that time. And so you may see what you see is bias in the poll rankings because of where you became your fandom and touched at it and how your team was doing or how another team wasn't doing well from that perspective. More recent fans will have a totally different perspective than fans that were engaged with the sporting HBCU diaspora for, let's say, 25 years ago or so. So without further ado, let's get into this first era, if you would, which actually encapsulates all of it. Going back to 1920 to 2024. When you look at this, there are 3 teams from the major division and 1 team from the mid-major division based on how many championships they have, what they did in terms of conference championships that would meet this criteria. And that would be FAMU, Tennessee State, and Grambling out of the major division and Tuskegee in the mid-major division. Fascinating. A lot of folks would like to shift Southern up. While they're very close, they don't meet that criteria in terms of where they are in terms of championships nationally. Got a lot of those championships nationally late, which why a lot of folks have such a big brand allegiance to Southern and what they do across the board for those that hadn't followed them earlier. Another one that was quietly in here that folks probably just frankly forgot about, which is Central State in terms of where they fit with the number of championships. And they dominated in the era, 80, 90, a lot of folks. In fact, Charles knows them very well because he believes, Jackson State fans believe, that they took away one of their championships, if not 2.
2?
But I'm just saying. So you have some fans that you really looked at follow this in a lot of ways, which is important. But the uniqueness is think about that, how that changes the formula. If Jackson State simply lands those 2 championships, they probably, in terms of this formula, right there in the medium tier, certainly right outside it if you add those championships. And then that means Central State probably falls out of it. So those are things you look at. And when you look at this, it's amazing to me when you look at the mid-majors, the lack of consistency with other programs when you look at the totality from 1920 to 2024 of mid-major program, which also gives you a lot of indication in terms of the, I don't want to say importance, but the value of being at the Division I FCS. So there's a lot of other programs that get a lot more shine because just being at the Division I level over this period of time, in addition to what they did. And so you have A&T, which we know if you look late, they have really got in there, and you have a lot of fans that probably see them, bigger brand that follow A&T now, and what they have done over their history. South Carolina State, program that has a lot of success. In the middle years, you'll see that. It puts them in a different category. But other than what they did most recently over the years, while they have been consistent in terms, in a lot of ways, conference-wise with championships, dominant MEAC, they hadn't been there in terms of national championships, similar to what you see with Jackson State. Morgan State, obviously a lot of that is history from many years. Prairie View, history going back to the 50s, 60s, and past that. Obviously, when you look at the 80-game losing streak, that's one of the things that has been a poison pill in terms of history. And folks that follow that came on board late will not see Prairie View in the same framework that those folks that are still with us that followed Prairie View in the 50s and 60s. When you talk to us, it would be like our grandparents would tell you a different story totally about Prairie View. Hampton, one of those programs that had a big swing early and then in the middle, but it actually has slowed down recently. Adding Howard that had some championships there. The Braves are Alcorn State as well. What's fascinating to me is we'll get an indication in terms of Tennessee State where A&T, will they be able to provide, and Hampton find the consistency to move up, or will they actually worsen over the next year if they can't find a way? Same thing with Tennessee State. If they can't find some momentum to consistently do what they did last year over the next 20-some years, where will they be? To give you more indication about that, let's go to the next one, where we start looking at this in terms of 1978. You start seeing when you close that picture at the FCS level, look how it shifts. How many more teams move up every tier, which makes sense. You got a lot more fan bases that were following it from the 1978 versus 1920, which is historic for a lot of folks. It's like the dinosaur age. Look how much these brands that you often see more teams talking about now that are fighting for when we had these folks who are doing the dialogue of Blue Bloods. These are the teams that you kind of see up in that mix. I would add, if you do it for mid-major, one thing that Stephen Gaither later Drew pointed out is that if you're going to be a true HBCU historical fan, you have to make sure you're inclusive of these mid-major programs in terms of the terminology I use, which is Tuskegee and Central State from my perspective when you look at what they did. You also see that South Carolina State, some of those teams I told you, A&T, Hampton, they move up into that space in terms of that. Southern moves up in that tier when you start to look what Jackson State does, which is why I'm telling you, if Jackson State continues to do on the trajectory in terms of pure just winning national championships, where they're certainly in the fight for a regular now, look where they move to in terms of what that looks like. Bethune-Cookman, which is falling on its face, but it did so much work over that 1978 period when you talk about when they got good, where they are. Then you got Stephen Gaither, who would be fascinating and intrigued in terms of his thoughts of this, where Winston-Salem State program has started to move in terms of the mid-tier. That's Winston-Salem State in the mid-major area. Then you have with your light tier a program such as North Carolina Central. You see the trajectory, which in the next slide is going to be fascinating when you start seeing this, because Central has one of the few arguments about what they were able to do on two levels in the middle of their strength. You have Howard that had those great years with Jake Walker in terms of what he's able to do, a couple of teams, and obviously recently getting back in the mix. The Braves that Charles always tells us to keep your eyes on. This gives you some indication of the hype that they had in there in Alabama State in terms of what they were able to do. And then on the mid-major level, don't forget about Albany.
Yeah.
In terms of a team that has some dominance that a lot of folks are fighting to say that they should get back to. And most recently, Bowie State has put themselves in a position that they should be talked about in terms of what their program has done of late. Next one is one that is obviously dear to me. This is the classification status era. We're going to go into what I call the Dr. Ville's modern era, because this is when I got into the game and started doing the poll. Reminding folks the reason that I even introduced this poll ranking, getting back to Ken Rashad, at the time was the SWAC Page Network. We had the MEAC Fans Forum. Obviously, rest in peace, Eric, in terms of Anadon, in terms of what he put together there. This is when I got in the foray. A lot of folks were talking, similar to what you were talking about, Charles, fighting where Tuskegee was winning some championships. They were going undefeated or one loss, beating one or two FCS programs. Alabama State dominating the area, to be frank with you, up on that. Jackson State was winning SWAC championships, playing at the FCS level, but ending seasons with 8-3, 7-4 records. And some people would argue, was that 7-4, 8-3, 9-2 record better than a 10-1 record for programs such as Tuskegee or Winston-Salem? And because of that, I thought it was important that we were doing a disservice to the mid-major programs if we didn't recognize their great programs. And so that's why I literally came up with the idea from a marketing business perspective to separate the brands, separate the divisions such that both teams could be recognized. So that's what you're seeing here in a lot of ways. But it's fascinating to me when you start to shorten that window of what you look at, 2002 to 2024, over a little over 20-year period, almost 25 years now. Grambling and A&T are in the mix. So you see A&T's program accelerating. Obviously, they had that bad dip, but they weathered that storm pretty well and started really running off things. But you see that Tuskegee is still in the mix. Winston-Salem State also ascends this program during this period of time. Medium tier is Hampton. We talked about their reign over the MEAC for a period of time in terms of what they were able to do. And you see that you have more mid-major programs that are doing it. And this is where I think it's fascinating, because you have North Carolina Central that was in the CIAA for a period of time and started the ascension of their program prior to moving to FCS Division I, which probably has a lot of support in what they were able to do to maintain that success. One of the few programs that have been able to move up from the football playing field. Norfolk State obviously needs credit from the basketball side of things. But on the football side of things, one program moved up and been able to have some success. You see Johnson C. Smith moving up in that area in terms of what that looks like in a lot of ways. That's Bowie State Bulldogs. Virginia State has had some success that people probably have forgot about until last year with Dr. Henry Fraser III reigniting that. Benedict, just in a short period of time, has elevated their program. Can they maintain that momentum, or they go down in terms of where they are being in that medium tier area, obviously along with Albany State, the Golden Rams. You go to the light tier, this is where you see the transition in North Carolina Central. You're in the mix. These are teams that have won a couple of championships, at least one during this period of time. So you see a lot deeper list. But you start to see where Jackson State dips down a little bit at the beginning of this era, which probably influences their inability to be recognized early over the long period of time. So they had more dips probably than other teams in terms of a team that has a significant brand awareness. Anybody won't be able to tell you that. But because of the dips, it's put themselves in a little bit challenge there. Also obvious to see that with Prairie View in terms of how far they dipped with just one championship going in recent years. And that's really 20 years ago now. I put Texas Southern in here. Some people will argue about that championship being taken away, but I'm doing this based on what happened on the field. Bethune-Cookman, Southern, in terms of those programs. This also tells you about how Southern has fallen over the last couple of years in terms of getting that final conference championship. They've been in the mix quite a bit over that period. But that's something to look at. And then the light tier, Langston gets back in the football business. Fayetteville State has been a team that's been very solid over this period of time. So I wanted to talk about what that looks like. And these are teams that had multiple championships on the mid-major side. Final framework I want to show really is interesting to me in terms of what that looks like. This last era, Celebration Bowl. Obviously, I know Celebration Bowl was just played between the MEAC SWAC, but I wanted
thought out.
So I brought out everybody here just to show you still what this looks like. But look how this changes. When you shrink that period of time, this is essentially over the last period of 10 years, where teams are in terms of that trajectory. Heavy tier A&T, even though they dipped recently, they were so heavy on the front side of this 10 years that they still are considered to be up there with those 4 championships over that period of time. And then Bowie State eclipses Tuskegee, which kind of tells you what happened to Ski over the last 10 years, which Drew reminds us in terms of how much pressure is on the coach based on their expectation. You see that over a period of time. You've seen this when Jackson State, obviously, in some ways, just literally boycotted, wouldn't come into the game because of their expectation of what did they want to see from their program. It also gives you credibility. I know some people don't want to hear this, but what Coach Prime was able to reinitiate.
He absolutely did.
And credit to T.C. Taylor for climbing that final mountain and putting that stamp where that program is. And it'd be fascinating to see how much momentum Jackson State can continue to carry with what they're doing. I also want to give some shout out, in this case, to Ashley Robinson, who was the impetus of that. And we can do that with ADs across the board, who were some ADs and oftentimes presidents that supported these teams to be able to have this kind of move. Grambling is in the mix, but also tells you a little bit how they have fallen. South Carolina State, North Carolina Central, right there in the mix. And obviously, Benedict, just over a short window, has been able to show you what they're going to do. Then I bring in the light tier. This also tells you a little bit how FAMU had fallen until that championship appearance they did over this last period of time in the mix. While you look at it, the overall period, they're right there in the mix. But lately, they hadn't been doing as much as some people would look at. Then you have 4 teams on the light tier for the mid-major side that we should not forget about. Langston, Virginia State, Winston-Salem State, and Tuskegee. While they've fallen a little bit, they still have been able to show the strength of their program. And then what I did on the bottom side last year, which you didn't see on the other ones, is in this era, I think there should be still some recognition for teams that have gotten to the Celebration Bowl but weren't able to get the championship. So you see that here. And how
I was ready to bump Alcorn up just on the fact that they got there.
Right. But that's why they got mentioned. But everybody above them actually has won a championship.
One, correct. Yeah.
So that's different. Jackson State got there, but a couple of times there, when they closed the deal, that pushed them up. Mm-hmm. You include that they got there, but they got the championship. Central got there a couple of times. They closed the door and won the championship. Grambling got there early in this decade. They won one of those championships. South Carolina State got there a couple of times. They won one of those championships. A&T got there several times and won all those championships. So that separated them in terms of what that looks like. So fascinating when you kind of break this up in these framework. Obviously, Virginia Union will be in the mix when you talk about that. They should be in that last tier in terms of what they were able to do last year. So I know we ate up a lot of time, but I do want to get any thought. I'm going to go with you first, Drew, and then come to you, Charles, to kind of close things out.
It's interesting, Doc, that you took a totally different approach to breaking down your tiers or your statuses there. But irregardless of the approach, your data, our data from Sunday, they come out very similar. And you know, there's a team here or there that we may haggle about, but overall, you know, we aren't too far off to considering that we took 2 different approaches. And the thing that everybody doesn't realize, we did this and we did not talk to each other. Doc sent this to us when he found out this was a show that we were doing, and he was already working on it. So we were already working on this independently. But Charles, something is really eating at me, and it's about your people. I keep getting all your people talking about the championships, paper championships, or fake championships, and everything like that. FAMU 16 championships. Even if you take away the one that people say that FAMU didn't deserve, that still puts us in company with Grambling. And anytime you talking football and you're mentioned in the same sentence with Grambling State University, I'm happy with that conversation. But I have to remind some of these folks from Jackson State that included in your 5 national championships is a championship awarded very similarly as one of Florida A&M's championships. So if Jackson State, if you want me to take away my championship, I got to take yours away also. Fair is fair.
Which one are you trying to take away?
Well, the 2019 is the one that a lot of people talk about with FAMU.
Oh, you're talking about 2021. Okay.
And which means if I take that one away, I have to take the 2021 away from Jackson State.
Okay.
So so if we want to take them away, take away. I don't want to take away because somebody thought these institutions deserved it. We said over the years, 52 different people have named a national champion. Politics, everything else for the mythical up until 2015. I'm not into the politics. I worked for government before. That's why I don't work for government anymore. I don't like dealing with the politics anymore. But irregardless, it was awarded to you. Cash the check. That's all I'm gonna say. Cash the check when they awarded it to you.
As my very passionate fan base started texting me Sunday, and they're starting to do it now.
Just remember, if you take ours away, you gotta take yours away.
No, I mean I have to kind of calm people down a little bit in terms of Jackson State's place in HBCU history. A lot of it, for the most part, Jackson State football starts really consistently winning 1961. So you're talking about the 20s.
That's 40 years.
Yeah, to 1960 before we really get into the breadth of what Jackson State football is. And I've told you this on many occasions, Doc. My bone of contention is when Jackson State is really having a very dominant period of time, especially in the 80s, where they win 7 SWAC championships out of 10. And they were only awarded 1 HBCU national championship. That's the one that's always bothered me because they seem to always be penalized for losing the playoffs for whatever reason. So,
I think that's true. Yep.
And a 28-game SWAC win streak, it's very hard for me to even envision now somebody having 28 games. Well, we have Celebration Bowl, but just having that level of dominance and only having 1 national championship. But that was my bone of contention about that. So
I think it's fair, and that's why I wanted to put in there. If you move those 2 up, it does a whole thing in terms of the dynamics of the formula. And that's why in a lot of Jackson State fans' eyes that they are higher on the list, rightfully so in terms of the brand. This is just metrics. I can't change people's attitude and mindset. I will say that a lot of this is subjective. There's times when you look at FAMU in terms of what they did in SIAC, and the Rattlers will come at me, rightfully so, for saying this. But there was a time when they were playing the SIAC where they got to pick the teams that they were playing for conference championship. But the key thing is some of this is just good branding.
Yeah.
One thing that the FAMU did was the Orange Blossom Classic.
Exactly.
They had a very good season. They were bringing a very good team to close out the season. Early on, Prairie View had the same thing with the Prairie View Bowl. So some of this is just, especially when you talk about the mythical era, is about people's ability to navigate the marketplace. which is another example why I tell you why sports marketing is so important, is to understand that. This is a validity test to show you what that looks like. The other part of that is I'll talk about that. If you look at some other brands, FAMU, and this is not to begrudge them. If you take this away, I do like when teasing that was said about iconic Blue Bloods and just having the top three, whatever, it's 5, 6. And I was laughing and giving Brian a hard time when they say, why does it have to be 5? If you're a Blue Blood, it's 6, 7, it's fine. But he's like, no, we like to do 5. So I was like, Jackson 5, 5 out of 5. Good. I get it. High five with Jay Walker when he's talking about his top 5. Good thing. Which is, again, because it gives us a chance to talk, which is more important. We get a chance to educate people on what this looks like, of why these brands are enduring to so many different groups, why people are literally getting on these social media pages or thoughts and almost ready to fight verbally, at least you would, in terms of showcasing why they believe their programs are so important. So I did want to share that. But let's put a pin on it. Great dialogue. I think what you all share with the people was from the inside, and I think that's important. Very few spaces where you can really talk in such a way where you're not just yelling at each other in regards to get your point across, where you can saliently make a statement, provide your perspective, and that's both from you all and our fans that are listening as they chop it up. Now, they might get a little rougher than us, but for the most part, it's done respectively. So I just want to say shout out to the fans and appreciate you all for allowing this space to be like that, where we can have these meaningful updates and dialogues. So let me close it here. I have Ryan McGinty. Shout out to him. He was part of the one that started this. He's got to get to his son's practice, so I would give him a chance to speak on here, but he didn't dress up, so I'm going to leave that alone. Thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. They give me a shout out, Ryan. You can shout him out and say, hey.
What's up?
He said, what's up? Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, AD Drew, showing us some love. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday. Check us out. We'll do the next 7 for the mid-major to make sure we do what we say and what we mean and what we talk about. Make sure the mid-majors get some love. Next week, we're going to try to see if we can sneak and get Stephen Gaither when we release our final 7 to come on here with Drew so they can have a representation for the CIAA-SIEC. See what that looks like, Charles. We start in September. We'll bring back on Sundays. We'll be able to give you the latest and greatest early in the morning after you're excited and wore some of that stuff off you did on Saturday. Come and join us for that. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. It's DRKENYATTACAVIL. That's Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. DRKENYATTACAVIL. Look for a game day to be traveling, getting some stuff, game time to give you some updates of what that looks like. We might find our way on the road for the HBCU lecture series as well. Tell you a little bit more about that. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
Drew.
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Travel light, everybody.